Like most of the Old South, African American culture in DeSoto County, Mississippi, centered around the church. Since the late 1700s, the church has historically been a source of inspiration and salvation for generations of African Americans in DeSoto County.
After the Civil War and the African Americans had begun to enter into the society of a free nation, they decided that we must do something to educate our children beyond the 8th grade. Usually, many of the classes were held in church sanctuaries, and we used the church on Mondays through Fridays for public school classrooms.
Realizing education was the key to freedom and prosperity, many African Americans in DeSoto County came here to the Baptist Industrial College in Hernando, Mississippi.
It was purchased in 1893 for $1,000. By 1900, the school was open, grades 1 through 12, and this school existed until 1960. The cornerstone down there was the cornerstone in the administration building. It's a reminder, back in 1900 when we didn't have a school to attend, and our foreparent worked hard to buy a building and build a school so that we might be able to achieve a high school education.
Following the Civil War and emancipation of African Americans, the Civil Rights Movement began. While the movement didn't start in DeSoto County, Mississippi, the shooting of a young freedom marcher on Highway 51 in Hernando in 1966 forever put DeSoto County on the map.
The African-American history has been very rich here in DeSoto County. We had one major civil rights event that occurred in 1966, and that was the shooting of James Meredith. James Meredith, obviously being the very first African-American to go to Ole Miss, decided to have a freedom march from Memphis to Jackson, Mississippi down Highway 51 to encourage African-Americans to vote. He left Memphis and was shot on Highway 51. There were several photographers with him at the time, and one of those was a photographer with Life magazine, and snapped a picture of him falling to the ground as he was bleeding. And that shot won the Pulitzer Prize for photography for 1967. And a lot of folks really feel that that image was the iconic image of the civil rights movement, shooting an African-American man just for walking down the road.
The civil rights movement forever changed the landscape of DeSoto County. Soon after, African Americans went from working in the fields to being government leaders.
There were not any African Americans on the school board until 1990. And fortunately or unfortunately, I was the first one to be elected. And it was often stated in the school board meetings once I was elected to the board that I wasn't given the opportunity to ride a bus to school, but a bus could not be bought for the school system unless I voted for it.
March back in time and explore African American history. It's just minutes away from Memphis and Tunica in northwest Mississippi, here in DeSoto County. Discover your DeSoto experience. Visit the DeSoto Visitor Center at I-55 and Church Road across from the DeSoto Civic Center, or visit sodesoto.com to learn more about all the exciting things to do in DeSoto County.